Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit today about taking the anxiety out of cold approach. I've talked here and there about cold approaching people in the real world as a means of meeting for romantic intentions. And this is something I'm going to keep hitting on and keep talking about. So if you continue to tune in my channel, and you're a guy specifically, let's say this is mostly geared towards you folks out there, but maybe there's some women that just want to hear the perspective or hear the thought process, or maybe want to use some of this stuff themselves. That's totally fine with all these things that I talk about and what I'm saying here. But I think part of the biggest learning curve when you're learning to get comfortable cold approaching a woman in a real world, everyday, daylight hour setting is there is this heightened, ratcheted up sense of anxiety. I think in general, it is intimidating to go up to a complete stranger and try to strike up a conversation, hope that it goes well, and all these things go through your mind. But one of the biggest things that I've learned is that if you can kind of take the pressure off yourself as much as possible, it turns it almost into like a non-event in the first place. And when things don't go quite well, you get to walk away from that situation with your head held high, and it doesn't really affect or bother you as much anymore, because it's like you didn't really throw that much out there. You just made like an innocent attempt at talking to a stranger, and it may not have panned out. And when you can leave a situation or walk away from a situation under that sort of pretense, it's a whole lot different than like throwing like all your cards on the table, like completely showing your hand, embarrassing yourself. I think that's like one of the biggest ones that causes anxiety, or maybe offending somebody, or having like a really weird like adverse reaction to your presence is I think those are the biggest things that probably us men are kind of scared of happening, which most of those things, of course, most of it's in your mind. Most of it's kind of ridiculous. Like these sorts of things like don't usually go that sideways, that bad, I think, for the most part in general when you're out there trying this stuff. But I wanted to tell you guys a story about my day-to-day, and I do make an effort to, if I can, at least once a day. It doesn't always happen like that, but at least like if I see somebody that I'm truly attracted to and I feel like I want to talk to them, I try to force myself to like put myself up to it and go do it. And like everything, it takes just practice to build that courage and get comfortable, let's say. But so anyways, just the small story from my day-to-day, I'll tell you right off the bat, it didn't really end up as I would have hoped, but it's fine. And I want to illustrate a couple of those points that I had mentioned earlier as I started talking there, and give you a real-world example of how these things equate and like what it looked like in my situation. So I was in a Target close by to where I live at. I was on my way to the gym, and I needed to pop in there to make a return, essentially. And I noticed a really good looking woman right when I walked in the door, and she was she was poking around one of the aisles there. And so like always, I try to analyze the situation a little bit before I make an attempt to talk to her. So I'll always look to see if she's wearing a wedding ring, because it's definitely not my thing at all to try to approach any woman that's wearing a ring on her finger for obvious reasons. And then I'll just kind of try to observe a little bit about what she's doing. What's her body language like? Is she, does she have her headphones in? Is she, look like she's just rolled out of bed and like clearly like she, a lot of times you can just tell when people don't want to be bothered by their body language and the way they're walking around. But this woman was like very nicely dressed. It was clear that she put her makeup on and made herself look very nice. Like even though she was in her gym clothes, she put some effort into it. So you have to assume, I think, this, I don't know if you can make a general statement, but this is something I've noticed that women that do that sort of stuff, like there's an intent behind that. They leave the house like looking a certain way that I don't know if this is a subconscious thing for them or whatever, but I think there's a bit of uncertainty on their minds where they might be thinking, well, I don't know who I'm going to meet today, and I'd like to look my best, and I'd like to put my best foot forward, and this is how I'm going to leave the house today. So just, one of those extra things that I'll try to make a read on. So I noticed those two initial things. I also just took a look at what she had in her cart and which aisle she was on, what she was shopping for, because sometimes those things will play a part, and it's something you can talk about, as silly as that might sound, but you need some kind of material to to continue a conversation sometimes. So after I look at all those three things, I made a determination in just a minute or two that, yeah, like this is somebody that's hey, it could be worth going up and talking and striking up the conversation with. So I did. And one of the things I've learned to do is to try to open up a conversation like this with a very like non-threatening sort of statement or a question or a polite thing to ask somebody. And I'm going to tell you like what I said in a moment, but I want to give an example of a little bit more like charged or a hand showing sort of statement when you approach a woman in this sort of circumstance. If you were to walk up and say something like, hey, wow, like I noticed like you look beautiful today. Like you look really nice. Like I like your outfit. I like your hair. I like whatever. Like I just had to come up and talk to you. Like that may or may not work. Sure. Like if the girl decides that she's attracted to you in that initial moment, like she's probably going to hang around, but what if she's not? And I would prefer to like go into a situation with a very like neutral, like non-hand showing statement or gesture, because once again, this is one of the biggest things I'm trying to tell you guys today is to unload that pressure off yourself. So with the statement of you noticing her beauty, that already tells her that you're attracted to her. That tells her a lot about why you're there. Or it just kind of comes out and says it like without hiding anything. There's no mystery there. There's no like, you couldn't chalk it up to anything else. And this can be a little bit off-putting. And this is one of those things that kind of hurts when you walk away from a situation like that. You throw all your cards on the table and she rejects you because the fact being that like you let her know like exactly what was on your mind. Like it stings a little bit more, I've found, than the contrast to that, which was what I said. I just said, hey, excuse me, like, did you go to school in XYZ or at XYZ University? And this is the place that I went to school. So it's like I've already got something to talk about, but like 99% of the time, like she probably has not gone to school with me. But I'll say something like, hey, like, did you go to this school by any chance? Like, you look like somebody I might have gone to school with like way back a few years ago. And this, in my opinion, is a very like neutral way to open up a conversation, because it's not just jumping out there and like we said a moment ago, like telling her you think she's beautiful. It's just like a very like innocent, like normal, everyday, like something that even a woman like could come up and ask this girl. It's just like, I think it takes like kind of some of the aggressiveness or some of the it takes some of the charge out of the situation, right? So that's the first part to tell you about this little situation. So unfortunately, like the situation didn't unfold as I would have hoped it would have. And I've said it before, and I'm going to come back and talk about this one again. But if you're lucky enough and you've made it this far into my talk today, this is a real gold nugget, is that part of unloading the pressure from yourself is like trying to take the pressure completely off of you to like do something or make something happen, and really just focus on this fact and this fact alone. Just read her energy. I've talked about this before. That's all you need to do. That should really be your only goal. I feel like when you get to a certain point of this cold approach stuff, like all you're trying to do is like get proximate to this person and feel her energy out. Make a reading, make a judgment, make an assessment. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. If the energy is good, receptive, positive, friendly, then you hang in there. And you know, it might be a little awkward to fumble through the first like couple minutes of a conversation, but if she's like standing there and she's giving you those good vibes back, like that's a good sign, and you should keep rolling with it. But my situation today was a great example of a contrast of a time when like the energy like wasn't so great, and like I don't really know what was going through her head. Like maybe she I don't know, maybe she was just so caught off guard, and like who knows what she was thinking. But either way, in any case, I would have done the same exact thing if I was put in that situation again. The energy read that I got was not necessarily a receptive one, because I had asked her this question, excuse me, yada yada, and she didn't stop like wheeling her cart by me. She kind of turned her body around. She responded to me like, oh no, actually I went to this school instead, and she just kind of lingered a little bit, but she kept walking away. Like she kept moving her cart like around to the next aisle. And so it was such a brief moment that was all it was. That was all it needed to be. And that just tells you everything right then and there. It's like that sort of energy that somebody throws back at you is not a receptive one. This is like somebody that, who knows, like she could have wanted to like escape that moment or get the hell away from me, or like she didn't like what she saw. She didn't like anything about that situation. She could have been, married and not wearing a ring. She could have a boyfriend. She could have like, any complete possible realm of things that could have been going on there. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, I hope that I'm illustrating my point here, is that like, if you make a good read on her energy, that's where it stops and that's where it ends. And you get to walk away with your head held high, because it's like, no way in hell am I going to go like chasing this girl down the aisle and try to continue this conversation when like very clearly she's like walking away from that position there. And it's like, it's kind of like, I didn't really do anything. I didn't really make any more aggressive of a move, like asking her out or asking for a number or anything like that. I didn't do any of that. So there's like nothing to hang your head about walking away from a situation like that under that sort of pretenses. So like, let's recap and like put the two things together. You make a very neutral, non-threatening opening statement to try to initiate a conversation. And number two is like, you make a read on the energy, and you have to have the mental ability to like make a quick assessment. And you'll get better at this the more and more you do it, whether or not the energy is good or bad. And like I pretty much said it 3 or 4 times now. If it's bad, just let her go and you go on about your day. And like I said, you don't have this big like ego shot to your gut. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's nothing to beat yourself up over. It's like you said some small sentence to a stranger and she's moving on and you're moving on, and that's it. That's all it's got to be. And that is a big contrast to those situations where you totally crash and burn. Like you hang in there longer than you probably should. It's like very clear that she's not feeling your presence or receptive to like just you trying to talk to her. And those ones take a few days to get over, and that just makes you feel like crap, whoever you are. So that's just the biggest thing that I'm trying to get across to you guys, and hopefully you can use my little example there and try to incorporate this into your life when you're out there trying to meet people. And just like I said, the biggest thing is learning to like take the pressure off of yourself. Like just de-escalate the whole thing. It doesn't need to be this like really awkward, like ratcheted up moment. It does not have to be like that at all. It could be as smooth and as natural and as nonchalant about what I just described there. And that's pretty much all I've got to say about that, guys. We'll talk about this a little bit more. I'm going to keep hitting on this because it's such a good lesson. It's such a profound thing for us as men to learn how to do. And like, I kid you not, women appreciate this stuff so much. Like even this woman today, like I think that's something you can walk away from these situations feeling good about. Is like, even if she wasn't like feeling me or feeling that situation or any number of things, it's still like, I think for women, it's like, it's a little bit of an ego boost. And I'm not a proponent of just like, just unnecessarily, inflating women's egos like just cause, but it's like, she's just a human being. Like hey, that's great. Like she can go on about her day, like feeling good because she knows that like she was able to attract like a man, a stranger, like was able to walk up to her. And I think that makes any woman feel like valued, and it reminds them of their beauty, and it makes them feel good deep down inside. And I also think that's not a bad thing. You can feel good about that as a human being. It doesn't have to be anything more than that, but it's just like one small little piece that you shared with this person that day, and that's it. And you go on through life, and it's on to the next one. And I'll say it again, it gets just really cool in life when you realize that the world is your oyster, because you can go up and talk to any damn woman, anywhere, anytime, any place, doesn't matter. Daylight hours. It's one of the most invigorating things I think that a lot of us can learn to do, because we're not naturally inclined to do these things. Like most guys are scared to do this stuff completely, point blank, no denial of that. I think that's reality. So anyways, guys, that's it for today. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.